Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Radio. We've had a very interesting week leading up to this show. We had a cancellation, but we filled that pretty well and successfully. But we have an amazing show set up for everyone tonight. But firstly, I'll get Taryn Teresa, the co-host, on the show. Welcome, Taryn. You there, Taryn? Hello,
can you hear me? Brad, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. Welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, please?
Oh, well, I'm 35 from Texas. I've been studying the paranormal and things since I was in junior high school, about age 13. I've had several experiences here and there, and I've just become really interested in it and just try to learn all that I can.
So you used to wag school to go ghost hunting, hey?
Oh, yeah. Any chance I get.
Yeah, I probably should have put a disclaimer in before that one, but anyway. So your interest in the paranormal goes a very long way then. So back since you were 13, so that's good. Are you part of any particular group, Taryn, or are you just go out?
I'm not. I just kind of freelance. My son, my 13-year-old son, is also interested in it, and we kind of just we go around and do our own little investigations of different places and things.
All right, well, that's cool. Well, tonight we've got an amazing show with Joni Mayhan coming on to speak about her book, The Soul Collector, and we also have Sylvia Nance coming on to speak about her paranormal experiences and the gifts that she's had since she was young. Also about some of the exorcisms and deliverances that she's performed. But first up, we're going to have Joni. And Joni, for Joni, the paranormal began when she was very young. She had many scary occurrences when she was as young as 7 years old. Joni spent about 13 years in a haunted house, which piqued her interest in the paranormal before she finally got investigating herself back in 2008. And from reading her book, all I can say is Joni got more than she bargained for when she started investigating. So Joni, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So,
Hi,
Joni, as
Joni.
I said before, your experiences kind of started back from when you were 7 years old. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, I was pretty much born as sensitive, which was not anything I would have chosen for myself, but I have the ability of clairaudience, so I hear tones come in, and when a ghost comes in, it's almost like an ear ringing, and that started really early, when I was very small, and I tried to pass it off as tinnitus later on in life, but it really was beyond that, so it was hard to pretend it wasn't there.
Right.
Yeah. Like they do say that's they did try and blame that on something, didn't they?
Yeah, well,
Like
when
to a
you're,
young, like,
when you're a child and you grow up in a family that doesn't really believe in ghosts, you're going to hear that ghosts don't exist and it's nothing, to be concerned about. It's just your imagination. But things kept happening that I couldn't explain, and I couldn't, blame as tinnitus when I was feeling them behind me or, having things move or seeing things. So yeah, it's been interesting.
So as a kid, how did you actually work out yourself that what you're experiencing was actually the spirits being present exactly?
Well, my first experience that really opened my eyes that what I was hearing was not my imagination was when I was 7 and I was lying in bed and I was having a terrifying dream that a ghost had a hold of me and he was telling me that if you don't come and belong to us, we're going to take your family away. We're going to start with your little sister and then we're going to take your mother and we're going to take your father. And at that point I woke up and I was pretty terrified. And I looked towards the doorway, and there was something in the doorway, and it kept moving closer and closer to me. And I was hearing the tone. As it was getting closer, the tone was getting louder. And at that point, when it got pretty close to my bed, I managed to scream for my mother, and it went away. So it was hard to discount that as my imagination when I'd seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah, well I guess you must have thought you were going a bit crazy for a while, having to deal with those experiences as a young child, not knowing that you had this gift of clairaudience.
Absolutely.
I mean, I haven't come across much clairaudience over time, but I mean, I could imagine, especially having to deal with it as a 7-year-old, that wouldn't be very much fun at all.
Well, it's interesting. Since writing the book, I've had a lot of people come to me afterwards, and they say, my ears ring too, and I've always thought it was tinnitus. And granted, a lot of it probably is tinnitus, but it's starting to make people kind of second guess what they thought was something medical as possibly being something paranormal. So I think a lot of people have abilities that they've just discounted because society has told them that it's not true. So I think a lot of people are.
Right. People are scared of things they don't know anything about.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
apart from sort of hearing stuff, did you see entities as well, or was it only just you really hearing this stuff?
Off and on, I have seen things. I've seen entities here and there. As a child, really, that was the only one that I saw. And I really did take a good long break. I mean, I knew when they were coming around, but I just kind of repressed it as best I could, because a lot of it scared me. As a child, I didn't know how to deal with it. I was having night terrors. I was walking in my sleep. People couldn't wake me up, and I'm sure it was not fun for my parents trying to raise me. So I somehow managed to tamp down on it quite a bit. And it didn't really rise back up until I was a teenager.
Okay. Was this gift a gift that sort of ran in your family, or was it just something that started with you, or?
I've always heard that those things do run in families, but it's been hard trying to track that down. I think that maybe back in the day, maybe people didn't talk about it as much. Maybe they had some ability that they didn't develop. I know, like my mother's has an uncanny ability to always find a really good parking spot. She does things like which is kind of weird. I don't know if that's a paranormal ability, but it is weird. Every time I'm with her, she gets front row. But the other thing is she'll call me right at the same moment that I'm calling her, to the point where you'll pick up the phone and there's no dial tone, and you'll say hello, and she's there. And we've done that a number of times. So I have to say I probably got it from my mother's side of the family, but I think mine just came with a bigger dose, possibly, than what they had gotten.
Yeah, I can tell you some days I wish I had the gift of finding good parking spots too, but I seem to find
that'd be a good one. That'd be a great one to have.
Parking ticket or something.
Oh, goodness.
So, at what point, Joni, did you move from having these experiences? Like, you lived in a haunted house for a while too. What exactly happened there?
Well, that was actually pretty terrifying because this happened in the late 80s, early 90s. This was before there were a lot of resources out there. All I had to go on were scary movies like Poltergeist. So I was afraid of learning too much, and I just tried to really ignore it as best I could, but it became very difficult because we were seeing things move out of the corner of our eyes. Items were getting moved around the house and reappearing. We'd hear footsteps on the floor above us, and we knew nobody was home. Doors would open. We'd come home from work, and every light would be on and every door would be open. And I think what really got me, though, was when writing appeared on the wall. We had built a fish tank. We were refinishing the basement, and that's really when we really stirred things up with the construction. And we took out this really old workbench that had been there. It looked like it had been there 30 years. And I think it probably angered whoever had lived in that house before. Maybe he was still hanging around. But that's really when a lot of the activity started happening. And we had built a fish tank into a closet so that you could see it from the wall, but I could access it from inside the closet to clean it. And
right.
On the inside overnight appeared the words, "I'm here, woman," written in chalk on the wall.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
And there was nobody there that could have done that. So it was a little creepy. And just items would disappear and reappear. Tried to keep it. I had 2 very young children at the time, and I really tried to keep it away from them. But as they got older, they started talking about things that actually were happening to them as well. So it was affecting the entire family. I was very happy to move.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. After 3 years, I think I'd be pretty happy to move too.
It's different when you go and investigate. It's different when you're investigating a house that's haunted, and versus living there. When you close your eyes at night, you're very vulnerable, and you don't have a whole lot of say of what goes on around you. And the last thing you want to know is that there's invisible people running around your bedroom. So it was a little disturbing.
Very true, I would think.
Yeah. I've had an attachment before from a haunt, so I understand 100% what it feels like when you're going to bed.
The physical, I'm sorry, the physical problems that it causes itself is enough to stress anyone out. I mean, they cause breathing problems and energy, problems and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine, that would probably cause enough stress within itself, and then, you think you're going crazy with stuff moving around everywhere,
Well, that too, and, I look back, they now, knowing what I know now, they can put thoughts in your head too. They can influence your moods and your behaviors, and, they may have been the beginning of the downfall of my marriage. I'm now divorced, so, the marriage didn't last long after that house. So, things just started going downhill, and I think some of it could have been, 2 things, dealing with, the paranormal there, and then also just the thoughts they would put into your head or the moods they would put you in.
Right. Yeah, because they're going to feed off your energy.
That could have also been you dealing with your dealing with your gift as well, you know, like, it wouldn't be an easy thing to deal with.
Well, yeah, because it came to me first. I was the first one that knew it was there. My ears would ring. I'd feel sensation. Somebody was in the room, but there was nobody there. And initially, he didn't believe me. Nobody believed me. They just thought I was, reading too many Stephen King books. And, it took a couple years before it escalated up to the point where it would show, or not show itself, but provide clues that it was there to the rest of the family as well. So it really narrowed in on me for a couple of years. So I had to deal with it by myself without anybody really believing that it was going on.
That's also another reason why people don't a lot of the times come forward with certain things, because no one believes them. They just think that they're crazy.
Right.
So yeah.
After you moved out of that house, Joni, how soon did you decide that you wanted to go out and investigate the paranormal?
It took me a number of years because I really had to get over kind of what I'd gone through in that house. The last thing I wanted to do was go poke another ghost and get it all riled up. Probably after my divorce. I divorced in 2005, and it's in my book, but I really didn't do a whole lot. I just kind of sat around. I didn't have any friends or family in the area. My family was all in Indiana, and I was in Massachusetts. And one of my friends suggested go on to meetup.com and look for an activity that in my area that I could get out and go do something. And he had suggested ghost hunting because he knew I liked the paranormal shows, and I had a whole library of books by this time. I was pretty well versed on the paranormal before I went to my first event. And the first event I went to was really terrible. It was run by people that weren't prepared to run a meetup group, and they weren't organized, and it was kind of a dismal experience. But I gave it another shot, and the next time I went, I actually met my very close friend now, Sandy. She had taken over the meetup group, and she and I have become really close friends through the whole paranormal.
Where was your first experience?
What?
Where was your first experience that you said wasn't that special?
It was at the Houghton Tunnel, near the Houghton Mansion, the Hoosick Tunnel in North Adams, Massachusetts. And it's a 5-mile active train tunnel that cuts through the Berkshire Mountains. And the story behind it is that 220 men, I believe, died when the tunnel collapsed, and so people say that it's haunted. But it's an active train line. There's no trespassing signs everywhere, and you're not supposed to go in the tunnel because you don't know when the train's coming. You could be the next ghost there if you get caught. I guess you can push up against the wall, but it wasn't anything I wanted to experience.
Oh, so it's Russian roulette paranormal investigating then, hey? You go in there, it's not the spirits you have to watch for, it's the damn trains. Yeah, it doesn't sound like an enjoyable night to me.
Right. And, to not be going in, I didn't have any equipment at that point. So part of the reason why I wanted to go on a ghost hunt was to be able to use the Mel meters and the K2s and the different equipment, and just to see what it, to play around with it. I'd seen it, but I didn't have any. And, none of that happened. We didn't have any access to anything. It was just us, because they wouldn't go in the tunnel to the group. They were too afraid.
Well, the people running it wouldn't even go in the tunnel either.
Well, I went in a little ways. Yeah, I went in a little ways just because I felt like we'd driven an hour and a half to get there, and I thought, well, let's go in a little ways. We could always turn around and run if we needed to. And we had gone in for a distance, and I turned around and looked, and the opening was like the size of a quarter floating in the air behind me. So I thought, it's probably time to go back out. And that's about the time we turned around. But I didn't experience anything except for the fear of the fact that I was in a tunnel where a train could come through.
Right.
That would definitely be scary.
Yeah. So after that, when you just said before you went out on another investigation, Did you have any experiences on that one?
Well, as it turns out, that was another tunnel. It was another train tunnel,
Okay.
but this one was not an active train tunnel, and it was in Clinton, Massachusetts. In fact, I may be going there tomorrow to check it out for one of my future books. But it was, we had some experiences. We got a few minor things. We got like hits on the K2, but she brought all kinds of things for us, and it was the first time I'd ever played with divining rods, and we got to walk around with meters and K2, and she just really explained everything and walked us through the whole process. So I just really liked the way she conducted the meetup, and I thought, I'll go with these people again. And I, ended up being very good friends with Sandy, and we investigate all the time together.
Oh, well, that's
That
good.
sounds pretty awesome.
At least it worked out a second time around. Kind of helps when you're not in fear of trains. So with your book Soul Collector, the actual event that caused all these issues, was this at a site that you'd visited regularly?
It was. We had discovered this location earlier in the summer, and we went out a few times. So we started getting amazing EVPs, and we were hooked. It was so mesmerizing because there were the ruins of an old prison camp and an old TB tuberculosis hospital in the middle of a state park. So we could go in at any time we wanted to. We could go during the day. We could go at night. We could stay there all night and investigate all night if we wanted to. Nobody bothered us. And it was a good training ground for us. We had some newer, by this time I was on a team, and we were training new members, and it was a great place to take them and, spend as much time as we wanted to. And I love exploring, too. We found old maps, and we were able to explore all the woods and figure out where every structure was. You found some old foundations, and it was great. But the TB hospital itself, the entire prison camp was more of a low security. It was during the early 1900s. It was for people that were drunkenness or, like very minor offenses. And it was a working farm, so they were very low security. They'd work all day growing their own vegetables and raising livestock. But then they brought in this TB hospital when tuberculosis was on the upswing, and they started shipping in people from all over the state, from different prisons, and some really hardened criminals, murderers and rapists, and so it really changed the culture and the mood of the prison camp. And there were at least 59 people that died there because there's a graveyard, the Rutland Prison Camp graveyard, which is just down the road. So there was quite a few people that did die there that may not have been great people. And, my feeling is that as they were in life, they probably are in death if they stick around. Yeah. They're probably not going to be great people if they weren't great people alive.
Absolutely.
While you were investigating there over time, did you actually come across much malevolent activity, or was it merely just... like in reading your book, I've heard a lot of your EVPs and stuff, and they don't seem all that malevolent. Some of them are rather cryptic. They don't seem all that malevolent.
No, and we never, I'm a sensitive in the fact that I know they're there, but I don't get a lot of other information, which kind of makes me a danger to myself. I wish that I would see like a red light that would tell me, stay away from this one that goes along with the tone, but I don't. They're all the same to me. I've gotten a little bit better in recent years. I can differentiate a little bit more. I get more of a feeling from them, but at the time, there was a ghost. That's all I knew. And no, it wasn't. But I think a lot of it had to do with the mood that I was in when I went. When I picked him up, it had been a while since I'd been to the prison camps. I'd taken a break, and I went through a really bad breakup, and it was devastating to me, and I was very depressed. And so when I went there, my defenses were down, and I was very susceptible to something bad coming along. My feeling is he probably saw me the other times, but didn't really have a good chance to get a foothold because I was upbeat and happy and having a good time. And confident and strong. But this one time I went, I really shouldn't have. I was not in a good place, and my ears were ringing all the way home, and I knew I had something with me, but I didn't really, still didn't know how bad it was. I just knew I had something.
So what did you do at that point when you realised that there was something in the car and it probably wasn't all that nice?
Well, I pulled over immediately, and I had sage. I would always carry sage with me, and I lit the sage, and I staged my car, staged myself, and I told it to get out and leave me alone, and you go back to where you came from, and, said prayers and whatever I could think of, and it just wouldn't leave. And I get home, and I still feel it. And when I came home, I just had that weird feeling when I got to the door. It was almost like I had the feeling like somebody had broken into my house. Everything was off. And I walked around the house, and I opened all the doors and looked under the beds and looked in the closets, and I didn't find anything, but it was not that somebody broke it in. It was that somebody was with me. It was probably what was setting my radar off. And it just really got worse from that point forward. It just built and built and built until it just was too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pretty common feeling if you have an attachment, or it's even on some places you go where there is quite a bit of malevolent activity. It's that feeling of being stalked, which it's not a very pleasant feeling.
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Karen, did you want to say something there?
Oh, I was just going to ask, how did you rid yourself of the entity that attached itself to you eventually?
Well, I don't want to give away the ending to my book, but it was a very long, arduous process. I was working with a psychic medium who had a lot going on in her life at the time. She's going through a divorce, and she had a teenage daughter she was having issues with, and she was 3 hours away. So it was very hard to get in contact with her sometimes, and I'd have to deal with this. She did help me as much as she could. I now have more resources. That was part of, I kind of wrote this book because I wanted it to be kind of what not to do. If you're sensitive, you have no business going out and investigating unless you have a good exit plan. And I did not. I didn't have, what would I do if something attached to me? And I had already had problems with things following me home, but typically they would just drift away after a few days. And this one didn't, and I had no good way of getting rid of it. So now,
What sort of activity did you go through with this soul collector that followed you home?
Well, it's funny because as a non-sensitive, most people probably wouldn't have, they would have picked up on it that it was there, but a lot of what I got was the sensation of somebody being right behind me all the time, whispering to me. I would feel my hair move. I'd try to lay down and go to sleep, and I could feel, it almost felt like if I opened my eyes, I'd be nose to nose with somebody. And then I'd feel, if I ignored it, I would feel somebody stroke my hair. And if I ignored that, then it would stroke my leg and my hip. And usually that was enough right there to send me flying out of my bed.
Yes, as it probably should. Being touched by unseen forces is not good.
No, and things would move around in the house. Things would disappear and reappear. A lot of banging noises, a lot of unexplained sounds. Just.
Did it ever get fully violent with you or anything, like push or shove or anything like that?
No, thankfully. I know I read a lot of these other paranormal true stories, and mine is probably not as terrifying because knives weren't flying around the room, but, this really happened, and I didn't elaborate on anything, which I don't think anybody should have been telling a true story. I told it exactly like it happened. It was terrifying in the fact that it was trying to cut me off from people, like it started affecting my electronics. My phone just would not work. If I were trying to call somebody for help, my phone wouldn't work. My iTunes came on at one point, started playing a song that probably wasn't one that I would have chosen, and it was Saving Abel, Addicted, which, it's about a man that's physically and mentally addicted to a woman, and all of a sudden my phone started coming on my desk all by itself playing that song. And I, by this time, had already learned more about him from the psychic medium that was helping me, and she told me that he was a soul collector. She said he wanted me. He found something attractive in me, and he wanted to add me to his collection, and he was going to work on wearing me down until he got me. And he wasn't going to give up. Yeah, I felt like I won the prize, right? It was terrifying.
Yeah,
my whole house had a very heavy feeling to it. People would come over, and even if they weren't sensitive, they just couldn't stay in there. It just made your chest tighten, and it seemed dark, and it felt like a haunted house where it hadn't been before.
I find that's actually the biggest thing with these sorts of events. Like I've been in a lot of houses and cleared houses, and I even had an attachment myself at one point, and that's on top of all if you have any crazy stuff sort of happen, that's the number one sign of how you can tell something's in your house. I mean, when I had the attachment at my house, I had a mate that didn't even want to step foot in the house. It had gotten bad. And it is a horrible, horrible feeling. Did you have any pets at the time that were also feeling what was in your house? Because I find pets are really sensitive to this sort of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I wrote a chapter in there about my thoughts about it as well. My dog pretty much kept her head down and didn't pay attention to it. I think she's kind of a chicken with stuff like that. But my two cats, they were watching things moving around the room. I would feel it come in, and both of their heads would pop up, and they'd watch it come towards me. They'd watch it go around to the side of the bed. They'd watch it go over the top of the bed. And after a while, they just wouldn't come in my bedroom at all. And that was always a good indicator. I now have more cats, and I'm always watching. Things still follow me. Nothing as bad as that one, but it's always a good indicator. If there's something there, I watch what kind of behavior my cats are giving.
Definitely. As a sensitive myself, I know what I would say to, amateur people that are interested in the paranormal stuff. Do you have any advice that you would give people before they, if they're not really experienced in the paranormal field, before they go running into places, to investigate them, and potentially get, an attachment of some sort to them?
Oh, absolutely. I think, part of it is it looks like fun. You watch it on TV, and you think, oh, I want to go do that. And you have to realize that what you're getting into is something you can't see, and you don't know who you're dealing with. You may be walking into a room full of very pleasant grandmas, that just want to talk with you, but you also could be walking into a room full of very angry prisoners who hate women. So if you're sensitive especially, I think that you have to take a lot of precautions. First of all, you need to be ready. You need to have some kind of idea of how you're going to get rid of or push off something if it does decide to attach to you. You have to think about what's the worst case scenario and have a plan for dealing with it, which I didn't. And the other thing is, taking protection is, a part of your equipment. Finding something that works for you, and whether it's religion, with different talismans, crosses, or if it's spiritual with protective stones or crystals or something of that nature, or sage, or just whatever works for you, and really use that. Prayer seems to help a lot of people, or like the St. Michael's prayer, but just to have a plan in place and have something, learn how to shield, learn how to ground yourself and center yourself. There's just a lot of things that I feel like everybody should take some kind of paranormal 101 class with a psychic before they ever go into an investigation, especially if they're sensitive, because it's a totally different game than it is for just a regular investigator.
Well, I'd say I'd have to totally agree with you. Yes. It's
yeah,
not
look,
a game.
I think it's something that really and truly you need to, you're right there, before you do go out investigating, you need to know how to protect yourself firstly. And you need to be able to also know what to do if anything goes to pot. And I think a lot of people in these investigations, I've seen people do it, like when someone's clearly being hammered by an entity on an investigation, and they just stay there. You know,
Right.
there comes a point where you've got to get out of the location for a period of time before something takes hold.
Absolutely. And people are hesitant to do that because of peer pressure. They don't want everybody else in the group to think they're just being scared. But in reality, that's the smartest thing to do. If you're feeling overpowered by something, you need to remove yourself, listen to your gut instinct. And I will tell you that I've now listened to other people's gut instinct. I may not be getting that same impression that we need to get out now, but somebody else on the team says, I don't feel comfortable, this doesn't feel right. I say, okay, let's go, because I think you really have to be respectful of everybody, and somebody may be feeling something that you're not feeling, and it may be the right thing to feel. So I just think it's important to really listen to everybody's instincts.
Know your own limits
Has it
and
ever
listen.
crossed your mind? Sorry, Taryn, go ahead.
I was just going to, basically know your own limits and listen to how others are feeling as well, because, that's, everybody has different abilities for different reasons.
Right, absolutely.
As someone as sensitive as yourself, Joni, has it ever crossed your mind that maybe I shouldn't be paranormal investigating?
Definitely. I backed off from investigating. I don't do nearly as much as I used to do after that experience, because I'm learning. I have more resources. I have more people that can help me if I do get in a predicament. But I don't go to old prisons anymore. I really try to. I'll go to some of the public places, like the Houghton Mansion, or I've been to Waverly Hills. But I'll try to stay pretty much to places I've either been, or I've been writing more about it than I have been going, to tell you the truth, because I just feel like I had a really bad experience, and I wanted to put it out there as a precaution to other people that, look before you leap, because you don't know what you're jumping into.
True, very true.
Like what happened to you? Do you attribute it to any form of the way you investigated, or anything you did on that investigation that made this soul collector follow you home?
I don't. I'm always very respectful. I feel like when I go into a place, I'm kind of going into somebody's home, or where they live, and I'm always very respectful. And I always talk about their options. If you're trapped here, try to find the white light, and is there anything we can do to help you, and things of that nature. But no, it was a completely out of the blue thing. I think I was just a prime candidate for them to attach onto, and it just happened. So not sure.
So you said that.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Oh, okay. You said you're a really good friend, the medium, helped you out a lot during this time that you were going through. Did she help any getting rid of it, or was it all up to you to have to get rid of it?
She eventually had to be the one that got rid of it, actually. I don't want to give away too much in case somebody wants to read my book, but it ended up being a coven of witches that helped me. She was also a very talented and powerful witch, so it went through a lot of different people, or I shouldn't say a lot of different people, a lot of different actions. Normal things did not work, house cleansings and blessings, and none of that worked. It had to go to the next level.
A lot of that tends to just make them mad and come back stronger later on.
Pretty much. I have to say, I have a very good friend named Michael Cram, and he studies with the Catholic Church, or I think he's already finished, but at the time he was studying with the Catholic Church to help them with exorcisms. If they would have a case reported in their area, he would go and investigate to determine whether it was something that they wanted to look into. And he would drop everything, and he would come over and help, and he would, go around the house with sage and holy water, and he would calm it down. But a lot of the problem with that was I didn't fully believe it was really gone. He might have chased it out, and the minute I'm watching their cars drive away, I turn around back to my house and say, I wonder if it worked. And I pretty much dispelled everything that they had worked to do. So it's almost like I called it right back in again. I think any time you have any kind of paranormal protection or faith, you have to firmly believe that it's going to happen. You have to put all of your intent behind it, because the minute you introduce doubt, you take away all the power and turn it into nothing. And that's what I kept doing. I just kept thinking, I wonder if it's really gone, and boom, it was right back again.
Well, that's the one thing I've found over time too, that if you're conducting a clearing on the house and the method you're using, the person in that house doesn't actually believe in or agree with, then it doesn't hold the power, as much power as what it would if the person believed in what was occurring.
Right.
Because ultimately the person with the power in the needs to have the power in the house is the one who's going through the haunt.
Exactly.
Right. And I've never been, I've always believed in God, but I've never been a big church goer. And I needed something to be able to believe in. I've become very spiritual since that point in time, and I do believe God had something to do with it, but the witches took care of it for me.
So when you said that the witches had to go to the next level, what was the next level?
It was a banishing ritual.
Oh, okay, cool. So what, apart from the soul collector, what's another occasion, say, the scariest occasion that you've had?
Yeah, I've had some scary occasions as I've been, developing my abilities. One of them, Rolling Hills Asylum, is up in East Bethany, New York, and it's an old asylum. It used to be a poor farm, and it's one of the most paranormally active places I've ever been to. And I've had some pretty, interesting experiences there. But at one point, I was playing around my clairaudience, and I had learned that if I really focused in on a certain tone, because I hear different tones, they all sound a little bit different, and they would swoop in. And if I really focused on one tone, I could pull that one in. It was almost like I was calling them. And we were having a quiet night. We weren't really having any reaction. There were only 3 of us there. And I started really focusing on one of the tones. I thought, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can pull it in. And I did. I pulled it right in, and I saw it snaking towards me, almost like a mist of smoke, and it went right through my body. And that was the first time I'd ever had one go through me. And that was pretty scary, because it was one of those feelings that you've never felt before. It was like icy cold inside of me, and like my whole body swelled up with it, and then it went out the back of me. And I don't ever want to feel that again. It was terrifying, because you think, what if they stay? What if they just make a home?
I don't think asylums are really good places for sensitives.
I couldn't hear. There was a double echo on your voice.
Is there an echo?
Yeah, I'm still hearing it.
It's still there. Yeah, I can hear it too.
said, really? Oh, it's gone now.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
now
better.
you're good. Yeah. You had me nervous there for a minute. I thought, boy, how am I going to listen? How am I going to know what he's asking me?
Yes, I don't know. This blog talk, sometimes it tends to act like it's all possessed and stuff. Speaking of that, what's your opinion on demons?
They told me this was demonic. 2 different people came forward and said it was demonic just based on how I was reacting to it and then also what happened after the banishing ritual. And I have a really hard time latching on to demonic. I feel like so many paranormal groups go into locations and they say that it's demonic, and I feel like it's probably not, that it's more often it's a very negative entity that could present itself that way, but I think demonic possessions or demonic hauntings are much more rare than what people give credence to. So by nature, I'm very skeptical. It takes a lot for me to truly believe something, and it was a big stretch believing this was a soul collector, even though I was told by several people and confirmed later by somebody I really trust that it really truly was. But as far as demonic, I don't know. I really have a hard time with that. And that's what they told me, and I wrote it in the book that was what they told me, but I also said that I wasn't sure whether I believed it or not. I'm really so on the fence with demonic possession.
The Soul Collector sounds like a very cool demonic name, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was. And I probably, if I were really a good promoter, I'd go around and tell everybody, oh, yeah, he was definitely demonic. But I'm honest to a fault, and I'm not going to write or tell you anything that I don't firmly believe and have my heart behind it. And it could have been, who knows. I definitely was going through the stages of possession. It started with infestation, and then I was very deeply in oppression. He was telling me things, and he was really affecting my mood, and he was turning me to a person that was just about ready to do it all in. And I'm not that kind of person. So he definitely was getting to me. And my friends and the witches, they definitely came to my aid not a minute too soon. I don't know how much longer I would have lasted.
So is a banishing ritual kind of like an exorcism?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just done on a witch level instead, with spells and an altar and, instead of prayers and crosses and holy water. I don't know. I wasn't there they did the banishing ritual away from me because the psychic medium was able to pull him off of me, and she could bring him to her. She could work remotely. She was very good. So they managed to pull him there, and they did the banishing ritual away from me. So I wasn't there for it, but I've had several people come and tell me about it afterwards, and it was a very powerful moment for them. And afterwards, the altar cloth that they used burnt and left behind left behind the word L-E. It looked like L-E-G, which somebody else told me that they thought he was trying to spell Legion. So there are a lot of there's a lot of indicators that it was demonic. I just can't say for sure that it was, but I will tell you that they didn't actually get rid of him. They sent him back to they stripped him of his collection. He collected souls because it made him stronger. He fed off their energy. And they stripped him of, when they did the banishing ritual, it stripped him of all his collection, but it sent him right back to the prison camps. And I actually came in contact with him again when I listened to the wrong people and I went back to face my fears. I picked him up again. So, but it was different.
So what did we learn?
I haven't been back since, so I have eventually gotten smarter. But, he wasn't as bad, and, I am probably going to write a second book about it with my friend Sandy because it was interesting because we were sharing him. He was bouncing back and forth between the two of us, and we would document it when he would come to one of us. It would usually be like when one of us fell asleep, he'd go to the other one, and he would do similar things. And we finally found a really good psychic medium, and it was a big ordeal. But he is gone now. He's completely gone. So.
Well, that is good, but I don't think I'd be going back to that joint again.
I'm not. No.
I've got some of the EVPs on here that you sent me, Joni, and these can be found on SoundCloud as well, which we'll get that link off to you after. The one that was Don't Let the Walls Fall In, where was that one captured?
I believe that those were all from the location that I went to. I'm trying to remember which ones. I'm going to pull up your message to see which ones I sent you. I'm pretty sure those were all at the prison camp.
Yeah, they're all from the prison camp. Like I've got one from the root cellar.
That one was from Don't Let the Walls Close In. That one was from one of the solitary cells. There were 6 cells still standing. There were concrete cells, and the doors had been removed, but the cells were still there, and we would get a lot of reactions in there, and that one was from there.
Yeah, I'll play that one because I think that one's probably my favourite.
Did they ever try to bring in bad spirits?
Technical issues, don't you love them? It just decided to die.
Did they ever try to bring in bad spirits?
That one didn't play very
yeah,
well,
I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We'll cope.
It's cold in here.
Yeah, it's cold in here, and also the one that says I'm back in. I like that one too. So they all haven't seemed to load it up on here properly. I'll have to have a look at that. Good old technical issues. You got to love them. So Joni, if people want to actually get a hold of your book, where can they get them from?
It's on Amazon.com, and it's also on BarnesandNobles.com. I have it in paperback, and it's $10 for the paperback, or it's in an ebook format. And if people get the ebook format, I do have links to my EVPs in the book, so you can just click, if you're using an iPad or a tablet or, some of the Kindles, you can, or even a cell phone, you can just press on the page, and they'll take you right to the EVP that I collected at that point in time. So I think a lot of people really enjoyed the fact that it was interactive like that.
Definitely, that makes it more interesting.
Right. I have a website as well, if anybody's interested in going to my website and learning more about my future projects. And it has a link to my blog and my SoundCloud, all my EVPs. I have 280 EVPs on SoundCloud, so people are welcome to find me on there too. It's just under Joni Mayhan, no spaces. And my website is jonimayhan.com, JoniMayhan.com. And I also write a weekly blog about my paranormal experiences, and I have quite a few people starting to follow me on that. And that blog is it's just JoniBlog.com. So there they could find it, the link on my webpage.
I've actually had a read of your blog, and I actually find it quite interesting. All your experiences that you have had. And you seem to cop a lot from entities that seem to want to attach themselves to you. Do you think that's because of your sensitivity that they do that?
Yeah, I've been told I'm a beacon, and I started off with me getting a lot of EVPs. They would come and they would talk to me where they wouldn't talk to everybody else. Anytime I would go anywhere, I would come away with a dozen Class A EVPs, and everybody wondered how I got them. And I just think that I must glow to them or something. They see me as somebody they want to talk to or somebody that can help them or just somebody they want to hang out with. And most of the time it's fine. It's not, I don't want to bring them home, obviously, but, you know, if I'm at a location, I'll talk to them. But, you know, every once in a while I do get a negative one, one that wants to pass a message on that I can't hear. I'm not a psychic. I'm not, you know, I'm not a medium, so I can't hear their messages unless they talk through my equipment. I can't really help them. So I have some good connections now, you know, through writing the book. I'm writing another book right now about the haunted Victorian mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. It's been on a lot of paranormal shows. I'm finished with the book, but I am going through edits right now, and I'm hoping to have it out sometime early summer. But through that experience, I've been having, the house is getting very combustible. The ghosts, they're tired of the investigations and tours, and they're starting to let it be known. And, you know, I've actually had them been following me from that location. I just went for a photo shoot on Monday, and I had one follow me home. But I now have good resources. I have good exit plans, so I was able to reach out to a friend who's my mentor now. She was able to pull it off of me and actually tell me who it was and why they were there, and it was kind of interesting. They didn't want me to write the book because they're worried that it's going to bring more people in.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, Taryn, did you have any further questions here?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm just glad that you got, you know, got past your energy encounter and got everything taken care of.
Me too.
Yeah. She's just got to stop trying to bring them home with her.
I'm trying. Still learning.
Probably easier said than done, isn't it? When you're sensitive, because like you said, it kind of makes you a beacon, and you kind of
right.
you kind of do get followed around like a bad smell, so to speak.
Yeah, and they find me. You know, somebody told me, well, you should just stop ghost hunting, and it's like, well, I'm picking them up at the grocery store. Am I supposed to stop grocery shopping too? And you know, sometimes just driving down the road, I'll feel one swoop in. So there's no getting away from it. But what I have to do, and I am doing, is learning how to handle it and how to push them off when they do that. So it's a learning process.
Definitely is.
Well,
you have to keep yourself protected.
Yes, most definitely you do. And I guess it's a good lesson, that book, as to it's a good lesson in that book that paranormal investigating is not really something to be taken lightly. That you need to be out there actively protecting yourself, and just because the TV shows glorify it a little bit doesn't mean everyone should be running out doing it.
This is true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, Joni. Well, thank you very, very much for coming on tonight. It's a very, very interesting story that you've got there, and I don't think I'd want to have your gift just quietly.
Thank you, Joni. It was nice to talk to you tonight.
Oh, thank you. It was great talking to you, too, as well. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. So right now we're going to play a bit of a song. I'm going to have a drink, and we'll see you on the other side. Taryn's dropped. I'll have to get her to call back in, Taryn. Anyway, our next guest we have on is Sylvia Nance. Sylvia, as a young child, she was visited regularly by spirits and entities of many kinds. She obviously tried to ignore the goings-on, but eventually she couldn't ignore it. Sylvia has now set out to help the living and the dead communicate with loved ones and to try and help lost souls cross over. Sylvia is also a seer and can see the past and look at pictures and see what is actually in a haunted location. Her particular gift ran through her family, with her grandmother and her great-grandmother being mediums. Her own father was an empath and an intuitive. So Sylvia inherited her family's abilities, but seemed to have a heightened ability with having the gifts of being sensitive, empathic, intuitive, the gift of clairvoyance, mediumship, and Sylvia most recently has gotten involved in exorcisms and deliverance. So right now, welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Thank you. How are you tonight?
Very
Hello?
good. Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, especially at short notice too, because Sylvia filled in for a cancellation we had, so thank you very much for filling in anyway. How early in your life did you actually realise that you were gifted, Sylvia?
Well, I guess when I was a baby, my father, he bought a home. Actually, it was before I was born. He bought a 2-story home in Key West, and it was an 1800s home. He said it was like a shack, you know, he rebuilt the whole thing. It was beautiful. And I used to tell my mom when I was like 5 or 6 years old that I used to see a spirit in the house. I lived in there as, a newborn, and then was there till like 8 years old. And then when I moved from there, from age 8 to 11 or 8 to 10, something like that, I really didn't see anything. And then I started seeing, I moved into another 1800s home. I was 14 years old, and I was visited by a dark, squiggly tail. It had a tail, and it woke me up, and my cat was like walking around on me, and it was like meowing and hissing and stuff like that, and I saw it. And I was such deep in sleep, I just, put my head down and went back to sleep again.
Huh?
And, it was really strange. So I guess when I moved into another home, I was in my 20s, like 20, 21 years old, something like that. I fell asleep on the couch, and this, I forgot what they call it. It's an entity that came out of the floor, and it came out at me really quick. It lit up, the living room and the bedroom and all that, and it was dark, and I just told it to go back to where it came from, and I, used Jesus' name. And you can see where it came out from the floor and through the air. I mean, like coming towards me slowly. You can see every imprint that entity was in, and then it just went back the same way and went right back into the floor, perfect line.
You're actually saying it just
there's more.
physically with your eyes?
I'm sorry?
So this was all physically seen with your eyes, like literally coming out of a wall or whatever coming at you?
Oh, there was more experiences afterwards.
I
learned how their behavior is, what the behavior is like, how it feels, and I've even felt their emotions and everything. So that's how I knew how to deal with the latest investigation that I did in May. It was May 27th to be exact. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were doing EVPs, and all of a sudden my client became possessed. And I just had, I mean, she's 6'7", so I had to have all of our people, even the cameramen and the husband and everything, we had to hold her down. And so everybody started doing the prayers and this and that, and it wasn't working. It was more like agitating the souls that were inside her. They were human souls. I figured that out, and then I turned around and did a different approach, and I started doing a deliverance, and it started weakening them, and I was talking to her, and eventually she started coming out of it, and then I started doing the exorcism, and she came out of it completely. But she was really tired and weak, and one of my people, one of my camera people, she's a female, she attended to her, and then I went to clear the whole place. And this is including a husband and 2 children. These 2 children were terrorized because they were in a home prior to where they lived for 4 months, and they had to move because
had this followed them
of
from a previous residence,
dark
had it?
entity. Sorry?
So this had followed them from a previous residence, this particular
Yes.
case that you had? What sort of
Yeah,
activity were they?
Yes.
Yeah, what kind of activity
I'm
were
sorry?
they going through exactly?
Oh, and the other home?
Yeah, before they moved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she said she was being held down at night. She was being touched. She was. They would hear someone in the kitchen, like cooking and cutting things. They went out for, I don't know, family outing. They came back and the toilet overflowed, and there was water everywhere, and it was just things like that. The entity got mad. It was attached to the female, the wife, and it literally, did not want her to leave. I mean, it's been doing it. It did it to every resident. The person down the street told me that every time someone moved there, that they didn't stay long. And the way she was talking about it was like she was friends with it, not knowing that she was doing that. But I was standing there and I was listening to her. She went over there and tried to show me where everything was. I really didn't want her to go inside, but she had someone with her, and they went inside. And I was encouraging them to come out of the home. And when I finally got her out of there, she went back to her place of her home, and her other home that she was in at the time. And she started acting really strange. And she went over to my cameraman and touched him, and she marked him red, actually. You can see the finger marks when she tapped him on the arm. And I was just watching her, and she was very different, the way she was acting. And, yeah, so, I mean, they attach
That's one of the
themselves
funny
to
things
you.
that I've noticed with a lot of people who seem to go through haunts seem to think they can, especially with malevolent haunt, they seem to think that they can befriend these things. But the thing is, every time these things might start off friendly, and you might think you can befriend them, like this is the way they seem to operate. They start out friendly,
Right.
to lull you in,
help
to make
too.
you be friendly with them, and then all of a sudden you get the malevolent switch.
Right, exactly.
And
First they try to be a friend.
They try to Sorry,
yeah,
go
exactly. They try to get you to be a friend, and they get that strong bond, and then they've got you.
So where did you actually study exorcism and deliverance?
I was I'm a Catholic, and I went through a lot of schooling and teachings of the Bible, and I went to church a lot. I studied different religions, and then in college also, 2 semesters of it, 6 hours a day, 3 days a week. And I went to different churches, like I said, and I studied, like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Methodists, Catholics, Seventh-day Adventists, all kinds of religions. One of my assignments was Buddhism, and I studied up on that, though. And it's just really, there's thousands of religions out there, and then I had also an Islam Bible that we had to go home with, and we had to study some of those things, and and even the Jewish religion. There's 3 levels, and there's the Orthodox, there's the what's the other 2? I forgot. Didn't even know I was going to talk about this tonight. About the Jewish religion, but it's the Orthodox, and then you've got the one that's today's kind of Jewish teachings, and then there was another one, but there, it's just really interesting how all these people relate to, God and how they think and stuff like that, and you're not supposed to knock anybody's religion, actually. So it's good to understand, and when you have clients, where their background or their religious beliefs are. That's very important.
Yeah.
And because you're able to talk to them and able to help them whatever situation that they're in.
So, can you tell us
did you
about
find
some of the most intriguing cases that you've dealt with over time? Like, how long have you actually been helping people on cases?
Like I said before, and like you said, I really fought it. Okay, until 2009, I gave in. But all that time, I fought it, and I've been visited by human spirits, dark entities, angels, children. My father, I had friends that passed away, and it's just, I gave in to it because it wasn't going to go away, it wasn't going to stop, and I'm thinking, well, this is probably something that God gave me, this gift to help others and to be able to do something with it, and that's what I'm going to do, because I'm very passionate about helping others and helping, animals, people, just all kinds of situations. I've done it all my life, and what better way? Actually,
yeah. So obviously you've dealt. Sorry, go ahead. You there, Sylvia?
Yeah, I'm here still.
Yeah, I thought I lost you for a sec. Obviously, you've dealt with a lot of dark entities over time.
I have.
Like the demonic, how do they show themselves to you as, when you see the demonic?
Oh, they. Well, for one thing, I was asleep, and there was 3 of them. There was one that was kind of large, and it was over my bed floating. And that's not the first time that I had that happen to me. And it had a head, actually, and I screamed. I just woke everybody in the house, and they all got up. The lights turned on, and it never was able to touch me. It just, it got really large, and then it disappeared. And the next time, I saw 2 of them. One was next to the bed, and then there was one above me, the same one. And that's when I was 18, though. But what really happened was the last 3 years here, I was really terrorized in my home. I went to an investigation, well, actually 4 years, I think, something like that. It happened right after an investigation in Orlando. I went to a cemetery. It was called Evergreen, and it was really, really haunted. And that's not the first one I went to. It was another one also, and there was a lot of dark entities there. So there was a child also, and she followed me home, and so did the other ones. And I was just starting out, I guess, in 2009, and I was at a house haunting, the first one, and that entity wouldn't leave me alone. Literally froze me, and when I was outside, I had another psychic. She was outside. She saw him, and I had pictures of him, and I'm like, wow. I'm not going to let this scare me. There's a reason why I'm seeing these things, and if I can help, I'm going to do it. And so the next thing, I went to Orlando, and I guess we had to do some training. I was with a team, and they're a local TV show, and so I was with them training and stuff and filming, and I bring home some dark entities here, and it took me a while to figure out how to get rid of them, but I did, because I would have like literally, hooded figures like coming in through the walls, floating by me like nothing. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, And there was a child here. I mean, there's so many things that happen, and I just kept my cool. And my strong faith in God and Jesus Christ is what helped me to ward them away. Actually, it's just a lot of stuff that I learned how they were, how their behaviors were, and stuff. I also help clear homes. I've been doing it for 5 years. I've been clearing people's homes. And
yeah, because obviously the demonic can show themselves as very different things, can't they?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Especially
my ex-husband I was married to. Well, yeah, my ex-husband and my ex-husband and I saw the same entity, and my husband now, that I've been with for 20 years almost, he saw some things too when he was around me he'd never seen before. So I guess maybe if you live with somebody that, entities and spirits visit, I guess he's going to be able to see them too. So,
yeah,
so I know I'm not crazy.
Does it make it easier being gifted like you are to distinguish between human and demonic?
Yes, it's a feeling that I have. Plus, I look at the characteristics of the spirit or the entity. Now,
okay.
I had there's always something like different about them. God doesn't let these things manifest themselves into a fully human being. The look, the way they look. They can try to look human, but there's always some discrepancy in the way they look. Or if they're human, because I seen my father and I knew it was him because he looked normal to me, and he didn't make me scared at all. He didn't make my hair stand up or anything like that. I could feel it literally when something is not good. And plus, when you look at them, they try to make themselves like a human being. They can have their hand missing. They can have black eyes, like that thing I saw coming out of the floor at me. It was lit up like a Santa Claus. Like a Santa Claus has a light bulb inside it, and it was lit up like a lantern. And his eyes were so dark, there was no light behind that. And those are the characteristics that you need to see. And if if they're solid black and you can't see through them, it's not good. And if you see a misty-looking black figure flying around, it's not going to be a human spirit either. And one was floating over me before, the one that had the tail, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And my room was dark. I looked up, and I was, like, squinting. Oh, my God, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it was mimicking me.
Oh, was that like a shape-shifting one, was it?
I saw shapeshifters too before. I was going to get to that, but it was floating. It was floating above my bed, and I got up and I ran and turned the light on. It was right at the edge of my bed, and it still didn't disappear. I got to see it really good. Then it had a smile on its face, and then it disappeared. And I just seen all kinds of stuff. My son was in bed, and I'm like, I thought I told you to go to bed. But, they don't show their face. They don't, these shapeshifters or anything that is not, of a human spirit, they try to hide their face or anything they could so you won't distinguish that they're not really a human being. I don't know how to explain it any more than that. But it was turned around, and as soon as I saw it, it just disappeared just like that. You don't even see it disappear. It was just gone. So just over the years, going through, getting angry, for nothing, and feeling like this, it's telling me. I know I can hear it saying hey to me, and it's trying to get my attention. It's standing next to me, whatever it was. I know it wasn't a good spirit. It was giving me suicidal thought. It was telling me that life wasn't going to get better. Nobody loved me. Nobody wanted me. You might as well just, kill yourself. And this spirit, this happened. Okay, this entity came here after my friend killed himself. I used to feel something like what I felt here afterwards. It followed me here after he passed away. I didn't feel it at his house anymore. It was here then. I started understanding why he was suicidal and why he killed himself. He had Asperger's syndrome, and it makes it a lot easier for entities and dark spirits and stuff like that, demonic entities, to attach itself to someone that is
that's not good.
Has mental illness, So I've been through that. Two cases, two people. One was the one that committed suicide, which is a friend of mine, and you would be amazed after I told you, because he visited my home afterwards, and I had a friend that was a ghost whisperer. Well, anyway, he was one, and then there was another female that actually was my cousin. And she came over here one time and spent the night, and I saw a hooded figure, and I've seen it before when she was younger, and it would go right by my bed. And I woke up and I saw it. And I guess her father or her family sent her over to a clinic because she was having problems, she had bipolar and schizophrenia, a little bit of it, much of it, and I didn't know. They never told me. So when I went to visit her, it didn't look like it was her. The way she looked at me, and she was like, 13. Her eyes were black, I'm telling you. It has a lot to do with a mental illness. Not everyone that has a mental illness has these problems or has anything follow them around like she had it or like he had it. You have to be very vulnerable, or you're getting into things that you're not supposed to be doing in your lifetime. It could be go out and being, yes.
How many exorcisms or deliverances have you actually been involved in over time?
Actually, it was my first one actually in May.
That was your first one?
That was my first one, deliverance and the exorcism. But I have prayed for other people, I laid my hand on them and stuff like that for them to be free of whatever it was that was attached to them. I have done that, and it worked. So I know that when you pray and it's not working, it has to do with a human spirit, because, like I said, I figured it out, that it does not work on human spirits. So you do a deliverance because it helps them realize that they don't have to be held by the dark enemy that was holding them there. Because I seen what it looked like. I was outside and was having a discussion with one of my team members in May, and it was outside on the tree. And as soon as he said, "I apologize for how I acted to you," it flew off the tree, and it turned into, it was like two big wings. It just shadowed the car and the building, and it flew over. And I didn't say anything because I wanted to see if he would see it. And when it flew past me, his mouth open and his eyes open really big. Did you see that? He said. I said, "Yep." That's what we were dealing with. And after we did the exorcism and I cleared the home and everything and had boundaries to where it couldn't come in, I was standing there, and everything was open because to release any negative energy and put that positive energy back in the home, you have to let everything out, all the negativity out of the house. And all I heard was it was cackling. You can hear it. It was cackling, and it was it was weird. It was really weird. And I guess I called her up and I kept counseling her how to keep this thing away, how she should, keep her positive thinking, and what to do. And if she has to keep saging and keep doing prayers, I told her what to say, how to do it. And she did that. And then how to keep it away from her outside, because I asked her if she's seen it anymore, because she was seeing it all the time. She's a clairvoyant, and so, it's sensitive too. And she can see anything and everything. And so it makes me more susceptible, too, to having, entities or spirits come around you also. But she said she was by the pool and she saw it coming up, so her husband literally packed everything up, the kids, and then they left and they went back home. So I counseled her on how to have that kept away from her, too. And finally it left her alone.
Okay, so you actually conduct, like house exorcisms as well?
The what now?
You conduct exorcisms of houses as well?
Yes. I did. There was a child that was terrorized by another entity, and I guess they moved from Texas to Jacksonville, Florida, and I went to the home, and I did some EVPs. I blessed the home, and then I did some EVPs, and then I put the recorder on, and I started talking, and it turned it off, and then I turned it back on, and I could not, for the life of me, record because it wouldn't let me. So I did some saging, I did some holy water, and then I did some other things that I usually do and say, and she hasn't had no more problems with it.
Wow.
And yes, and I protected myself, but it came here, and I can hear it yelling in my ear the whole time.
So you get followed home too?
I got followed home with that, and then the other one from May also, but I get rid of it. And that's what I do. They do follow you home. You can't hold something. I don't know. It thought it could come into my home and terrorize me, but it was wrong. I'm not trying to be vain or anything, but there's a way of doing things in the right order, and I have a very strong faith in, like I said, God and Jesus Christ that will protect me, and He has. They both have. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, Taryn, you got any questions there?
Do what?
Is there anything in particular that you would tell people to do to protect themselves from having any of these entities of being able to attach themselves to you?
They need to live a healthy life. And try to be free of stress, which is really hard, and anger.
Right.
And fear brings them in a lot, and having people around that want to hurt them. Sometimes things are attached to others. Try to keep your home, clean. And if you're depressed or anything like that, seek help. And I have a strong faith, and I pray every single day, and I ask God to protect us. And if you need to sage your home, holy water, prayers, anything like that, or just if you do some meditation, just if you live positively, these things, it's very hard to attach itself because they're negative.
Right.
And try not to do Satanism or Ouija boards or anything like that, because that's not a positive thing to do. That's just bringing in more, dark stuff into your life.
I definitely agree. I agree. I do not like Ouija boards for sure.
No.
No, they're definitely not a good idea. Can you tell us some more of the occasions when you grew up? Because growing up, having these things manifest in front of you, tell us a few of the occasions that happened and how you actually dealt with that sort of stuff occurring. Because it wouldn't have been easy for a kid to have to deal with that.
I just when I was younger, I wouldn't know what they were, so I just like whatever, you know. And I just went on my merry way. I was always happy, and you know, I was athletic and just did whatever and was happy, and I didn't even worry about it. And as I got older, like into my teens, and then as an adulthood, it really started getting scary. I was being visited by dark entities. I was being visited by I forgot what the name of what they call it, coming out of the floor. I just recently was told what it was. In my early 20s, I was being visited by all kinds of spirits, and it really started to devastate me to the point where I didn't want to sleep. And when I did go to sleep, I'd get woken up, and there was a spirit at the door one day, and it was like there was a lot of death in the house that I lived in. There was a lot of death on the land because in the Keys there was a bad hurricane, and there was a cemetery right down the road from me, and it wasn't that far. It was like two parallel streets over, and there was a cemetery there and a crematorium. What happened was, when the hurricane came, a lot of the caskets floated out to sea, and they found almost all of them, but not some of them. And then there was all kinds of stuff buried under the ground, pottery, like there was all kinds of stuff, plates, and I found what do you call it? Bedding under there, and a mattress. And what I heard was that that used to be a trailer park, and then there was a bunch of houses on it after I lived in the house, and they found limbs, people, arms and hands, and attached to the trees, and there was a lot of death there. So I used to see a lot. Even a friend of mine down the street, he saw a black figure going up and down the staircase. So it was really haunted. The Keys is very haunted, and that's where I've seen a lot of them. And I've seen a lot of them here in this house too. I'm sorry?
How were all these people killed tied to the trees?
How did what now? I couldn't understand you.
You said that there was people like dead tied to trees.
Their body parts were attached to the trees and stuff. The winds were so fierce that their limbs were pulled. I mean, their bodies were pulled off their limbs because they were trying to hold on. And I don't know if they found them or anything. It was like 1930-something, and everything got flooded. It was massive death, miles and miles and miles of it. And I would see things all the time in my house. And the one that really stuck out was the female that was, 1930s, 40s outfit, something like that, 1930s, I think. And she, of course it would be, and she was like maybe 16, and she was standing there, and I just opened my eyes, and she was standing there, and she was trying to get me to come over to her with her finger, and it was like a evil smile telling me to come over, and I told her, I closed my eyes, and I said no with my head. As soon as I opened my eyes, she was gone.
Wow.
And
we actually have a question in chat. What church were you actually ordained through?
Good question.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
Oh, sorry, we just had a question in chat. What church were you ordained through?
Should I call back? I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Should I call you back?
Hang on. I'm not sure if it's you that's
Hello?
having issues on my Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Oh, we've lost Sylvia. Anyway, so we've still got you, Taryn.
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. I think we've got Sylvia back. Anyway, while we've got you just there, Taryn, do you want to tell us a little bit about some experiences you had when you were back at school, wagging school to Paranormal Investigate?
Well, what got me, I guess, thinking on the paranormal at all was when I was a child, the place where we lived was kind of a strange place, you know, the whole property. And one night I was in my bedroom and we had a big long porch, and I looked up and there was the shadow of a figure in the light with a hat on standing outside my window. And I walked out and I looked on the porch and there was no one there, and I asked my parents, you know, is there somebody outside with a hat, or did either one of you go out there? And they were like, no. And so, you know, I saw it several different times, and I told a friend, and tried to confide in a friend. Of course, they just thought, you know, I was going crazy. So I didn't really talk about it a whole lot after that, but that got me kind of intrigued and interested enough to start reading and finding my own knowledge on different things, you know, instead of just taking people's word for it. And it's pretty much gone from there. I found myself completely interested in it. I'm a sensitive myself, and it's just a kind of strange, you know, when you see things that other people don't see. You know, you see things out of the corner of your eye, and they're like, "Are you going nuts?" You know, so that kind of got me started.
We do feel a bit that way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, that just kind of got me started about everything.
I think we've got Sylvia back. Are you back, Sylvia?
Yes, I am.
Ah, cool.
Yes,
the question that I was asked that came up in chat was, what church were you actually ordained through?
Well, at the time,
when you studied exorcism and that, you obviously did some studies through a church. As part of exorcism, do you usually get ordained?
No, I didn't. I went into like a psychology major, and I'm also, ever since I was a little girl, I've just been reading the Bible and learning religious stuff, you know, to be able to help people and the Bible and all that. I went to different churches to learn about different religions, and I know some religions, they don't believe, and I went to a Baptist church too, and I forgot to mention I went there, and then a Holy Wesleyan church. And so the thing is that I learned a lot about the Bible. I learned about the spirits, and also what the Bible did say about spirits, and a lot of the stuff that there is things about spirits in the Bible, and it doesn't. I mean, people misinterpret it. They think that they're supposed to avoid these things, but there's no avoiding to it. They're around, and they're not going to go anywhere. It's God. They're God's creations, and they're going to be around no matter if you like it or not. People have the misconception of, well, if you get into the paranormal investigation, you're going to encounter spirits and you're going to have problems. Well, I hate to say this, but I didn't ask for it when I was growing up. I seen them, and they must have known that I seen them, because there's a lot of them that I have helped cross over because they came to me and they knew it. So that's what I've done with the deliverances all my life, I've helped spirits because I'd be, nag till I did it, and I know it worked because they left, and I felt that they were gone. And the same thing I did was living proof that this female went through what she went through, poor thing. In that other house that she lived in for 4 months, that she had 2 paranormal investigation teams go there, and they couldn't do anything for her, and it possessed her right in front of them. They just fled the home, and this thing was still behind, on her, and it still wouldn't leave her alone. And I was the third team to come in, and well, actually, it was a team of camera people that I had, and there was another investigator. So that's how I learned to do like the deliverances. And then it weakens the hold over the demonic entity that had a hold over them. And that's what I've been doing. So I learned that on my own, actually. But I learned a lot about the Bible, and I learned a lot about my experiences, what I went through, what to do, and how to do it.
So in your opinion, why don't these human spirits crossing over exactly?
What is it?
Why aren't the human spirit? Why aren't the spirits, these human spirits that are stuck here on Earth? Why aren't they crossing over where they should go?
Well, it could be. There's a lot of things that can happen. Say like you could have had spirits like that around you before you're born, after you're born. They could have been, I'm getting to it, and they could have a demonic entity attached to them that makes them stay here. It also could be that maybe they're scared to cross over. It could be that they don't want to leave, and it could be that they can't leave because something's got a hold of them. Because these spirits that were inside her, possessing her, I know darn well that he had hold of them because of maybe sometime they were a drug addict. They could have been a psychiatric patient. They could have been, whatever kind of person they were when they were living at the time. And the entity could have gotten a hold of them that way and not let them pass either. And I learned that because in May, the way I talked to them and the way I did it. I mean, I have a full recording of what I did, the exorcism and the deliverance. My lead investigator, EVP specialist, his name is Bart Glabman, and he's with Tri-City Paranormal in Georgia. He's had the team for 15 years. I worked with him. He's one of my lead investigators. He's a lead investigator, and he recorded the whole thing. And Haunted Entertainment, they have that, and I have a copy of it. But the thing is that what I learned, and I mean, it was so specific on what I did that I know what I'm talking about is true because we did the EVPs and stuff. First, they said, they were kind of nasty towards me, and then they wanted help, and then they talked about evil holding them there, and then when they possessed the client, I was delivering them. I told them to go seek God and Jesus Christ because they can still do that. They can be forgiven, and please go seek Him because you really don't have to be here. You can go where you need to go. And who is more powerful than anything is God and Jesus Christ. And He loves you, and He's the one that made you, not this thing, not this entity that's keeping you here, not this, whatever. That's keeping them there should not have that kind of hold on them. They are not mightier than the power of God or Jesus Christ. God and Jesus Christ made it that was holding them there, and then He also made them. And they had a choice, and they didn't have to stay there. And she started coming out of it when I was talking to her, and her husband was talking to her, and I started doing that, and then I started asking her, if she loved God, if she loved Jesus Christ, if she accepted, Jesus as her Savior, and I was telling her, to come back, and it all worked. It all worked, and she's fine. She hasn't had no more episodes at all. And that's a living, that is a living answer right there, and proof.
Yeah, Taryn, you had a question there?
Um,
I'm sorry? Yeah.
so, what was your purpose of looking into all these different religions and studying those? You sound like your belief is pretty much Christian. Was there a reason why, just to get information about how they view the paranormal and things like that?
Actually, I didn't mention anything about the paranormal or anything back then when I was doing that. I didn't even accept what was happening at the time. I was ignoring it. But the reason why is because I love God and Jesus Christ so much, and it felt good to be able to walk in wherever that loved God and Jesus Christ, that wanted to have me there and be able to bond with the church. It didn't matter to me what religion it was. What was important to me is to be around people.
Right.
It helps the soul, and it helps you relax, and it feels great. It's an awesome thing to have power of God and Jesus Christ in your life, and everybody else that's around you they love the same thing as I did. And I had there were 2 Jehovah's Witness ladies that were visiting me all the time. I didn't know what they were. I didn't ask them what religion they were until 3 months later, and they told me.
Right.
But I went to their church one time, and it doesn't mean that, I don't believe in some of their ways and what they think, but we all had one thing in common. We love Jesus Christ and God. And then I went to other churches. I went to other churches because I was just interested in learning, all their religions and their ways and how they thought and everything. That's why I did it.
That was it. I just wanted to ask if maybe it had something to do with a paranormal background or something, or just for, informative purposes.
Well, there were things happening to me, and I just wanted to stay strong. That is part of the paranormal. Yes, I apologize for that. I didn't talk to them. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, it's been a while, but I did tell them that I had dark entities following me around and showing up and all that, and they were like, "Oh, you need to come to church more," and this and that. And I said, "Well, I did that, but it's not happening. It's not happening, I did mention that, yes, I did. But I didn't try to convince them or anything. I just told them what I saw, and you should have seen the terror on their face. It's like, you need to live better, and this and that. And I said, well, I don't do anything. I'm just, I'm home. I don't do drugs, and I treat people, I say hi, and I'm social. I try to live right, and I don't steal from anybody. I don't do anything to anybody. I just try to live everything clean. I said I'm not a drug addict, and I'm not an alcoholic, and I don't go out every night and do this and that. So it's still happening. I don't think it's that. That's what I told them. But I do know that they're coming around me for a reason.
Yeah. So Sylvia, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they reach you?
They can reach me. They can reach me by Facebook under Sylvia Alfaro Nance or Sylvia A. Nance. Those are my 2 Facebook accounts.
Yep. All right. Do you have a group website or anything, or is it just on Facebook where they can meet?
Oh, also my agents are Haunted Entertainment, Don Gomez and Dan Guthrie. They know how to get a hold of me too.
Okay. No worries. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on tonight. It's
no problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope I helped, or I hope I made something clear.
Very interesting gift that you've got there, and very
God,
interesting to hear about them, and a very interesting story that you had to tell as well. So thanks very much for coming on.
There's a lot more, but we can have all night, but it doesn't last that long in the show. So, but thank you very much.
There's only so long.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. And it's nice meeting the young lady that's there with you, and it was nice meeting you too. And keep in touch.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too.
Definitely will
Yes,
do.
ma'am. And yes, sir. All righty.
Okay,
Sounds good. Okay, well, y'all have a good one, all right?
You too.
You too.
Good night.
All right. Well, Taryn, nearly coming to the end of the show. I thought I might actually play some EVPs for the rest of the show.
Sounds good.
I don't know if I've played this one for you. This EVP I actually caught when I was at a jail. It was called Maitland Jail here in just a couple of hours drive from me here. I was actually dressed up like a prison officer inside this jail, and running around trying to get reactions and stuff. And I'll just play this and then I'll explain a bit of it afterwards.
What you got? Just me in a jacket. Come on. Fucking school. Get out of here. Come on.
That actually played clearer than I thought it would, which is good. For those who couldn't hear it, it says fucking screw, actually, which is in the Australian prison system. The word screw is one of the names that they use for the prison guards. So I'll play that again.
What you got? Just me in a jacket. Come on. Fucking school. Get out of here. Come on.
Oh, wow. That's kind of creepy, huh?
Yeah, all I can pretty much say about that one is thank God I didn't hear that live because I was alone at the time and I think I might have crapped myself. If I did.
I would imagine.
It wouldn't have been good if I heard that live. But this other one I caught at an asylum pretty close to me actually. It's called Callan Park Asylum, and I worked out in this place that for the time it was open there was probably about 6,000 deaths in this place, and it's rarely been investigated, so it's very highly active, and this is an EVP I captured there.
Yeah. I can't remember, to be honest.
Did you bring the EM pump and all that shit?
Yeah, but I've got no AA batteries for them.
What?
I have no real idea what that one's saying, but it's clearly a voice. The only words I get out of that are the last four words, which is so fuck you too or something. So obviously not very pleasant. Obviously not very pleasant at all. So anyway, we might call that a night on the show tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you Taryn for coming in. Tomorrow tomorrow same time, same place, same bat channel. We have another amazing show with Carol Malone and Dawn Gomez from Haunted Entertainment. I hope you all can come. It's going to be an amazing show. We'll hear a lot more about Pac's work, and Dawn's coming on to speak about a few of the events that she's got coming up. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
When we call to see the teddy bears are here to play. If you don't come play with us, then we will kill you.